There we go. Look, I changed the chat to be 8-bit characters.
Oh, very cute.
Right? And get the geek in us. Get the geek in us going. Let me retweet. Retweet to PHP ugly. Hello. There we go. Comment. That's still there. Yeah. Retweet. All right. Beer 30, Gishu. You are on the money, buddy. Beer 30. Thank you very much. Shout out to my Gishu Symphony buddy. All right. Um. Yeah. Let me. Cheers, Gishu. Cheers. All right. Just. You pouring a beer?
Me or you talking to Gishu now?
I'm talking to you.
I got my beer.
Okay. All right. I still got a little bit of a lighting situation here. I don't know why it's so bright tonight. Must have something like not out of position here. Way too much brightness on this face here. All right. That's still too bright, but whatever. I'm kicking it off. Kicking it off. All right. Where are we at? 196. Okay. This is episode 196 of PHP Ugly. And I mean, by ugly, if you don't watch a stream, you'll know where the ugly comes from. I'm your host, your ugly host, Eric. And with me tonight, my good friend, Tom Rideout.
I'm beautiful.
You are a stunningly handsome gentleman. You know, as far as homeless people go, that is.
Yeah. I look like I could have had it all together at one point.
You look like you had ambitions at some point in your life and just
Yeah.
You lost it all.
It looks like it wasn't a me issue, just something happened to me that couldn't be fixed.
You're broken. Wait, we're hitting too close to home now. So we're a man short tonight. I mean, let's address the elephant in the room, or the lack of one of our elephants in the room. Mr. Congdon is not here. And as a matter of fact, we may be changing things around a little bit to accommodate schedules. We need to talk about that actually a little bit after the show. But yeah, no John Congdon tonight. It's just me and Tom. So this should be a very short show because Tom and I really don't like each other too much and rarely talk.
It's a bit of a rivalry.
What's going on, bud?
Keeping busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was doing an interview thing a while back, and it was a couple weeks process. Didn't hear anything for a while. Just heard back that they've decided not to open that position, and instead they have a subsidiary company that is a senior development position that pays more, and so I'm applying for that one instead. So now it's
Pays more.
Yes, but now it's a new review process. Oh, John wants to sneak in late.
I know. I'm actually wondering what this is going to do because I already have OBS streaming. I don't know if I can switch scenes like that.
And Zencaster.
Well, he can just join. Oh yeah, you're right. he. I don't know if he can join Zencaster.
Well, why don't we just take a 10-minute break and relaunch? We haven't gotten anywhere. We're only 5 minutes in.
But the tweets are already out, man. The world knows. The world knows.
I watch a couple YouTubers who do the like I'm going live thing, and they'll leave the going live banner up for 30 minutes.
Keisha, what do you think? Should we wait for John? I think Keisha's probably the only person watching right now, so since he's in chat talking, see if he thinks we should wait for John or not. We can try to switch over and see what happens. I'd be curious to see what happens with Zencaster. But,
Well, let's find out.
we didn't even do a clap check. And is his mic working this week? I don't know, man. I don't know. Oh, Brian's here. Tweets can be deleted. Oh, Brian, I was thinking that exact same thing.
But that our tweets propagate out to like 8 different social networks, though. Like you can't just delete the one; you have to delete a whole bunch of them.
I know, and I gotta let me. You know what? I'm gonna switch over accounts here in anticipation of wanting to delete. No, I'm not even gonna delete. If people are watching, we'll just tell them that we're gonna restart the stream, and then they can just rejoin. So it doesn't matter, right? It's called.
Well, we don't need to restart the stream. He can just jump in on the stream.
Well, that's what I don't know because I have to switch. I told you I created a different profile for you and I, so I have to switch all the scenes, and I don't know if that breaks the stream or not.
I don't think it does.
Well, we're about to find out. Right, Jay, there's only 10 of us, Tom. Yes. Oh my goodness.
Well, so since this isn't going live, have I told you my new unit testing strategy?
We are live. They're watching us right now.
Well, no, since this isn't going on the actual podcast.
Oh, okay. Then we're gonna do our after show before show this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
My new unit testing strategy is based off of Trump's testing strategy, where I just stop doing unit tests.
No,
and everything passes.
I was thinking the same thing. It's the new meta. It's like, yeah, it can't be wrong if there's no test, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's not a
every
bug.
test passes.
I agree, man. I thought that exact same thing. Oh man. Hey, tell John we're waiting for. Oh, you did. You said come on down. Perfect. Yeah, I'll be curious to know if this breaks or not. I also, if you notice, I'm keeping the chat up longer as well. It doesn't disappear as quickly anymore.
It looks like it's actually working, which is a bonus on its own.
Well, people are only talking in Discord. I think it's when people chat from YouTube or Twitch where things go haywire. Thanks. Spend some time on it this week, Ishu. Spend some time on it. Oh, I didn't tell you what happened while we're waiting for John and while everybody's out there. Oh, look at that. That does work. Yeah. While we're waiting for John, I'll let everybody know. We recorded a PHP Architect this week.
Uh-huh.
And, we do something similar that we do here where we have a backup. So we have Zencaster, which is the kind of the primary go-to recording. And then everybody records locally, which is kind of like the backup. So if things go sideways. Yeah, well, John, when he was talking to us straight through his Yeti. And what was recording on Zencaster and what was recording locally for him was through his audio hijack. So him and I both... Oh, I still got music playing. Can you hear that music?
No.
No. You hear
now
it
I can.
Is that too loud?
I can barely hear it. It's like it's in the background in a different room.
I got ducking going on, so when I talk, it should lower. But, so John... So the mic he was using to talk to us was different. We normally run through audio hijack because it allows us to filter out background noise and a bunch of stuff. Well, both of them crashed on him, and he didn't realize it. So his backup and the primary recordings were dead. I just happened, we were doing it through Zoom, and I just happened to decide to let Zoom record it as well. And fortunately, because he was talking to us on Zoom through the Yeti mic, fortunately that one recorded and I was able to edit it. So we almost didn't have a PHP podcast this month. I mean, we were like this close to not having a PHP podcast. Geeksy, you
Oh,
can't hear the music on the stream? OBS is.
Oscar, Oscar, are you hearing this?
Oh, is Oscar here? Holy crap! Yeah, I haven't even told Oscar yet, but it was.
I don't know how I don't know how you guys with all
That's weird. He
the
doesn't
Mac
hear.
is great and user friendly and perfect have so many more problems than I do.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, man. I have never gotten my mic working correctly. Oh. It's interesting. Gishu says he doesn't hear the music because OBS is showing me that it's sending the music.
Let me see if I hear it.
Do you not hear it?
No.
Really interesting. But now,
I have to mute you.
you have to mute me.
Yeah, because I can hear the music and
If I hold the iPad up to my face, I can. Well, it's like, yeah, that's how we recommend you listen to our show, Gishu. Just put your face right up against the iPad. Huh. But now the music's changing.
oh, it's there. It's very low.
Actually, I can actually pump it directly into. I can actually pump it directly into OBS. Loopback. Actually, that's probably bad right there. Hmm. It's very low, you say?
Yeah.
Uh, I could actually make it its own stream. Oh, John's already. Jesus Christ, we're here having a conversation. It's funny because John's always telling me it's too loud. All right. Is this John's hold music? Yes. Make sure, John, we're live, so just so you know.
Don't say anything stupid.
Yeah.
And why is there so much back music going on?
You see, John hears it. This is what I'm saying. How's John?
I hear it. I hear it. It's just low.
Whatever. All right.
Is it supposed to be there? I'm so confused now.
I don't- it's Eric's just doing a whole thing.
Hey, man. I'm making the show worth watching here. All right, so John, we have to try something really tricky here. First thing, try to hit that Zencaster link and see what happens because we're already recording. So it's going to be interesting to see if we have to start another session or not.
That's a good question. Let's find out.
Wow.
I pulled him in.
There's
And it
me
says
right
it's
in
recording.
All right.
there. I'll be.
Well, that's weird. Let's see how bad this breaks. Just start your local whenever you have a second.
I did.
I actually need
Already done.
I actually need to try to change our profile now, our scene collection, and let's see what happens here. This is so if you're watching the show, this is where things might break and we might have to restart the stream. So just be prepared for another tweet. We appreciate you watching, and things could go sideways here very quickly. All right. Why isn't your stream coming up? I don't know. Let's try this again. Well, the streams work. There you are. All right. Let me get I always do a terminal window, and I don't know why, because we never actually use the terminal, but one day I might actually do something in the terminal. I swear we should do live coding at some point. I feel like people would appreciate some live coding. All right, well
Man,
that's
I am.
that's
That's
horrible. All right, I think we're good. I think that all switched over. I feel like we were successful. All right, let me turn down the music. Just for shits and giggles, let's go ahead and do a clap check. Clap check. 3, 2, 1. All right. This may be the only living evidence of episode 196. We'll see how it goes. All right.
Oh my god.
Let's kick this off one more time. One more time from the start. Or do we? I can just cut all that together and just say, "Hey, John is joining us," sort of thing. You want to do that? I don't want to start over.
Sure.
Again. Yeah. All
In
right.
the middle of the show. I mean, how?
No, we weren't.
We were just started. We were like just small talking, trying to really think about how we're positioning for dominance. You were at that part. We're just kind of circling each other. John, you joined us. Thank you for joining us.
I'm having my.
Oh no.
And his mic goes out. That's awesome.
Pull your mic closer.
It's my. It's.
What is going on?
It's completely gone.
John's
Oh man.
all this work. He's moving around. He's rolling his eyes.
I can hear him whenever he shuffles around stuff or like knocks on his table, but when he starts talking, it just cuts out.
Mm-hmm.
I do that on purpose.
Oh, that was weird.
That's a loud, different mic.
I think you were on my
No,
right there.
No, I think we are there now.
We are now.
Yeah. I'm so happy John was able to join us. We're so glad you're here, John. What do we do at this point? I don't know. We're 4 shows away from 200. I mean, we're gonna limp across this finish line one way or the other. I have a feeling he's plugging in USB settings here. All right, you with us? He's just refusing to talk at this point.
I don't think he can hear us now.
Oh, perhaps. John, can you not hear us? I don't think John's going to make it to 200. I don't think John's going to make it to 9:30.
This is absolutely ridiculous.
And
all right, we'll try. We'll try that.
Week.
We'll try that. We'll see what happens.
What are we trying?
So I rerouted my cable from my Yeti directly into my MacBook, but I had to move things around to make that happen.
But you're still.
And we're still hearing you through your headphones.
You're still talking through your
yeah.
Phones.
It's not supposed to be.
Well, yeah, we know.
I'm sure Zencaster's just given up on you at this point. Zencaster's like, oh, this guy comes in late, equipment's not working.
I've given up on me.
There you go.
Oh, that sounds better.
That's much better.
You gotta turn yourself up though.
You gotta bring your mic closer to your mouth.
How's that?
Much better.
That's good.
Yes, much
Is
better.
that better?
Oh,
Silky
yeah.
smooth.
All right. All right, let's try that.
3, 2, 1. Hey, John joined us. How you doing, John?
I'm having as much fun this week as I did last week.
Excellent.
I hope,
I'm happy I made it.
I hope
sort of.
you've already been drinking because
Yeah.
that's good.
Went on a nice little date with the wife, back down in Thomas's old hood.
Oh, really?
Bye.
In Sneedus?
Yep. We stopped at Las Olas. Was it? Yeah, the little Mexican joint there, right across from the Kook.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we did a little bike ride down there. Went over to the beach for dinner. Had a margarita on the beach. It was nice.
Masked up the whole time, I assume?
Of course.
Of course.
It's the only way to be right now.
I mean, drinking the margarita really difficult, but they filtered through it.
Yeah.
I have a
It just
straw
comes
hole.
through as water. It's a really good mask.
Oh,
So you guys have
So-
stuff all over your Trello board. I have nothing on my Trello board, but I do have stuff to talk about.
well, good. What did I miss? Let's start there. Now that my mic and headphones seem to be working.
So the job that I had applied for no longer exists. They decided not to create that position. But within the company, they have a subsidiary that has the same position at a higher paying role. So now I am starting over the application process with the same person, but a different group of people.
It's like, didn't we do all this? Can we just bypass part of this?
Well, there's a coding test that I got to do this weekend. So
You really?
yeah, man, I'm asking for big bucks.
They're getting more
They make
coding
me-
out of you than your job gets out of you.
Shh.
Hey, John, you're wearing glasses. Is that a new thing, or have you always had glasses?
You know, I've had these things for years. I went to an eye doctor, probably 5-6 years ago at least, and they were given to me just to take the strain off, and I never wear them. And cleaning out my office, I reorganized in here, and I found these things, and I'm like I can normally see just fine, and I put them on. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can see so much clearer.
That's how I started.
So I am trying to wear them a little bit more often now.
The problem is now, if I don't wear them, I started the exact same way you started. The doc said, here's a very light prescription just to take the strain off your eyes. And now, that was about 4 or 5 years ago, I can't read without them. Like, I can't read anything on my screen without my glasses on.
See, this is just like the mask thing. It's a total scam.
It's a total scam. Total scam. The mask thing is, yeah.
Total,
Well-
yeah. If you hadn't been wearing those glasses, you wouldn't need them.
That's right.
I would say yes, but I didn't wear mine, and I've just noticed over the past few years, like, just a slight change. I've always prided myself on having great eyesight, and I just see it slipping, and it's frustrating me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I put these things on, and I saw the letters just a little crisper, I was like, oh man, it was so depressing.
It's starting. Yeah.
It's like I hit over 40, and then the stupid pandemic where I'm not getting out to play Ultimate. I've got shoulder problems, knee problems, eye problems. I'm just freaking falling apart all of a sudden, and I just want to cry and be done.
You're not even paying for braces yet. My daughter, we just got the estimate for her wisdom teeth removal, and it's $2,600.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm like, no, nuh-uh.
I'm telling you, you
They're-
look, you look how jacked up my teeth are. That's because my parents didn't get my wisdom teeth pulled out. They didn't give me braces, and I've got jacked up teeth. If I was more of a man, I would get it done as an adult, but now it just seems too painful, and I'm gonna die here soon anyway. So why bother?
Well, no, here's the
I'm
worst
telling
part.
you.
She thinks that she's going to say something untoward while she is under.
Your daughter?
And so she is now refusing to have it done.
Oh.
What were you gonna say, John?
Eric, I'm telling you, go Invisalign. It'll straighten them out. It's not painful.
Yeah, but I'm not
It's just
like
a pain
you. I don't have like a small gap. I mean, I literally have a tooth behind a tooth. I got like the whole shark thing going on. I got like rows of teeth going back in my mouth.
Well, that's the whole point with the Invisalign is it just slowly moves them. So every couple weeks you change out the tray,
Mm-hmm.
and the new ones they just fit a little tighter. It's a little more of a pain in the ass, and then it takes time, but
yeah. And by the time you're done, you're a virgin again. Isn't that how that works?
Is that an option?
No.
What are we talking about? What is this show? Are we coders? And look, the chat's all. We've lost all the chat. They've left. I don't blame them.
Okay, I have to start with one thing, just to get it out of the way.
Okay.
We've been talking the last couple weeks about facial recognition.
Facial recognition.
The story this week is facial recognition leads to wrongful arrest of black man in Detroit. Wrongfully arrested.
You could not wait to share that one, could you?
Nope.
Which card?
Not
Which card is
slightest.
this? Oh, I see it. I got it. Let me put this up on the screen.
Held for 24 hours in jail, and identified as not the person they had previously identified him as. He was accused of shoplifting, so they are using facial recognition to arrest people for shoplifting, which I believe we had discussed was the worst possible scenario.
Yeah, ACLU has filed a complaint against the Detroit Police Department. Yep. Yeah, we're going to have to figure this out. I'm telling you, it's not going away. We need to understand. We need to figure out how we're going to kind of regulate this and when it's the correct time to use it and when it's not.
Well, it's important to notice that Rank 1, the company that provided the software, had stated that the facial match should not be used as the basis for an arrest.
There you go. I think that's super smart of them.
It was.
And actually, if you think about it, hold on. If you think about it, that's the position a lot of facial recognition services should say, that this should not be used by law enforcement because lawsuits are coming. That's happening. So
sure.
Why don't?
But they're gonna lose the lawsuits though. The police have the right to detain someone for 24 hours without evidence to await charges. So they're just going to do that.
What I'm saying is the lawsuits are going to go against the services. If I had gotten wrong.
But the service, before deploying the service, they had said to the police department, "Don't use it to arrest someone."
That's what Eric is saying.
You're not listening to me. That's exactly why I'm saying that's smart. That's what all these facial recognition services should be doing.
I think they are. But the problem is the police don't care. The police can arrest you, detain you for 24 hours while they're running up charges.
That has nothing to do with facial recognition. They can always do that.
Sure it does.
That's part of the problem. But
adding facial recognition to it gives them another reason to just do it without any interest in the public good.
They never do it in any interest of the public good. They always suspect drugs, smell alcohol. We're getting way too political here. I'm just saying that the facial recognition doesn't factor into that piece of it. I think the company, however, who belongs to the facial recognition was super smart. You're wrong. There are facial recognition services out there targeted directly towards law enforcement. I think that's going to be an opening for a lot of lawsuits. So, yeah, that was my only point on that.
As far as I know, all the systems that are targeting law enforcement are saying this should not be the only evidence you use to arrest someone.
Oh, man. I was thinking of something else we talked about, and I'm moving on from facial recognition before we get too political. We talked, I think last week, you were talking about how you're getting ads on your Samsung television.
Yes.
It reminded me of something, and we have one of our developers at DiegoDev turned me on to Pi-hole, and I thought, wow, what a great idea for the house, because like I said, I had the same issue with the Rokus and stuff, but I have Raspberry Pis. I have like 3 or 4 of them now that I'm always looking for little projects to do with them, and I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to implement a Pi-hole, which for those that don't know, Pi-hole is a DNS service that runs on your Raspberry Pi, and then there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can point individual devices to it as its DNS service, or you can just point your home router to it as the DNS service. But what it does is it filters out ads, malicious sites. It has a web interface, so you can even have it block like adult sites and things like that. But the cool thing about it is it actually, you then update your well, if you do it to your home router, you don't have to update anything, because typically the home router, when it assigns out IP addresses, it tells all those IP addresses that it's, come to me for DNS. So unless you've already manually configured your DNS, you don't have to worry about it. But you can go in and manually configure, your televisions if you don't want to do it that way. And I'm thinking I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to set up my Rokus and my televisions to use it and see what it does to filter out ads and things like that. But you should think about that.
Are you really bothered by the ads on your Roku?
Well, I'm not. I not particularly. Now it's just a matter of principle. I just want to do it because I'm a geek and I like doing these sorts of things. But
Okay.
also,
I was gonna say, because
what I'm going to probably do, what does bother me is if this works as advertised, and everybody, including our person at DiegoDev, says it worked flawlessly. Like, he rarely had an issue with it. And if this is the case, I will completely buy a Raspberry Pi, take it out to my mom's the next time I go out to Arizona, and put that on their network, because my mom is horrible at ads. And every ad that pops up on her computer, she clicks on. Every, hey, we're Microsoft, there's a problem with your system, click this, link to share your screen. She will click it. She's really bad at that. If I can put that on her network, and I would rest much better at night knowing that's there for them. So I will be doing that as an actual, hey, this is a necessity sort of scenario.
Now there's a new Raspberry Pi 4.
Yeah, that's actually
it's not new, is it?
No,
it's
it's
been
not
around for a
new.
while.
No, there's a new model of the Raspberry Pi 4.
Right, yeah, I did see that. So I do have this 4, and I use this. John turned me on to this hack that allows me to plug this directly into my iPad, and I keep this. I have a directory on my laptop where I keep all my repos that I'm working on. So I will periodically rsync it to this, and what that gives me the ability to do is when I go to Arizona, if I don't want to take my laptop, I take this with me. I can plug this in, and I have access to a completely functional computer from my iPad. And at first I didn't think it was that beneficial, because I'm like, well, I could always SSH to a machine. I mean, we have a couple dozen servers out there I could SSH to, and I could kind of do the same thing. But it's growing on me. Like, I definitely feel better having this, and I've used it a couple times. And I'm like, that actually works nicely. So yeah, I like
But
my
only if you
Raspberry.
remember to rsync, right?
Hmm?
Only if you remember to rsync to it before you take off.
Well, no, not really, because I mean, they're all GitHub repos. So if I forget to rsync, I just do a git pull, and it pulls everything. It gets the branch back to wherever it needs to be. So I just rsync just to save the hassle of having to do pulls, and that's the only reason I do that. The great thing about
That
GitHub.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I will consider it, because I'm running a Raspberry Pi as a Kodi machine, and I can install Pi-hole on top of that. So
Interesting.
I'll try it. We'll
yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Now, one thing is I have the expensive model of the Samsung TV, so the ads are not that obtrusive or intrusive. They just I could find them when I want to. There's a little home screen button that gives me all the Samsung stuff, and it's got ads on it. But it's not the worst.
Well, it's right before the show. I did a quick YouTube search for it. I found Linus Tech Tips where he did the Raspberry Pi hole, and they happened to have a Samsung television, and it was blocking those ads. But the interesting thing, and I don't know why I didn't think this wouldn't work, but he pulled up YouTube on the television. I'm like, well, it's not going to block the ads on the YouTube app on the television, and
Oh yeah, it does.
yeah, it looks like it does. So it's just kind of across the board. It does a pretty good job. I'm willing to give it a shot.
Now I'm a YouTube Premium subscriber though, so I don't get the ads in
Well,
YouTube
you don't.
anyways. It's,
Did you guys talk about your weeks already?
Mm-mm.
I did a little bit. How about you start, John?
Sure, just because I put it on my Trello board. I hate Thursdays.
Well,
So Thursday.
I'm so
Wow.
happy to hear that. That
Wow.
wasn't a little direct. Sure.
Straight with the personal attacks.
Hope everybody in chat
right.
appreciates that.
All right, just mute him.
Let me rephrase. I hate Thursday mornings. Wednesdays are the release days for Phone Burner. So without fail, Thursday morning there's always issues. Today was no exception, except it seemed like nonstop with customer service saying, "Hey, this is broken, that's broken," and it's like, but why? And so I spent the morning firefighting, and then I hit one issue that was just boggling my mind. And I actually fixed it yesterday where I did it directly in the database. It was a big database update, updated a few thousand rows. And of course, not thinking everything through, it caused other issues. And it was frustrating. I put a hack in place in production to work through it, and apologizing to other people like, "Hey, sorry, this was an issue. It shouldn't have been." And they were super cool about the fact that the culture of coding a few years ago when I wrote the original feature was very cowboy coding style. Like, I just went in, I started coding, and then as I was creating the feature, it was like, oh, well, what if we could do this? And what if we could do that? So it was like just constantly jamming feature on top of feature. Like, it's one cohesive thing, but the nuances of how things worked weren't well thought out ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
So it led to a lot of technical debt written 2 years ago, where any minor change now is just compounded. It's so hard to work through these issues, and it's so frustrating. Point of the story being, technical debt sucks. Spending extra time up front architecting, thinking through your feature set first, so beneficial. We've been practicing that on lots of different projects lately. Like, hey, let's sit here and talk about the way this should work, not just, oh, we know we need this small piece, and then, oh, now we're going to bolt this other piece on. If you can stop for just an hour or two where you get a few people talking about a problem, working through those details, it'll make your life a lot better down the road.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
It was a shitty
I could disagree. Well,
I almost missed. We had a very important client meeting this morning, and I almost told Eric that I was gonna have to miss it because it was just nonstop.
We got a bug in our Discord coding channel that I can guarantee just trumps whatever the bug you encountered was this morning.
Oh yeah.
Ryan CCO asked, am I missing something here? This looks like a year, month, date, hour, minute, second timestamp to me. It's 1987-04-05 at 02:33:58. And he was getting an invalid format error on it. And swooping into the rescue, our friend Maxim Bodnar
Yeah.
says some time zones switch to daylight saving times on April 5th, so the time value between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. is impossible.
Really?
Could you imagine encountering this bug?
How do you know that, first of all?
Who does that?
His
Who switches?
no. So his response was, yeah, it's the kind of thing you never know until you have the bug. So I'm guessing he had this bug at some point, but what a living nightmare that would have been without somebody just having the answer for you.
And that's why you should be part of the PHP Ugly Discord channel, right there, buddies.
Could you? I mean, that just reading that hurt my brain so much.
Who switches daylight savings on April 5th? When do we do it? Actually, I say that I don't know when we do it.
They changed it recently, as on the fallback. I forget which one. They changed it like by 3 weeks. But I don't know. Every year I'm looking up when does it change.
Yeah, I just wait. I wait, and it does help that 90% of my clocks now all change automatically. Like I have like 3 clocks that I have to manually change. But yeah.
Well, the last daylight savings time, I was drinking, watching TV, and looked at the time and went, "Whoa, how did I stay up this late?" March 8th was our daylight savings forward,
So
and November 1st is our fallback. See, I just rely on people on Slack saying, "Hey, don't forget this weekend."
Yeah, that's me. Spring forward, fall back. That's the other thing I always remember.
Well, then the next question is how do you get that time into your database to begin with, or is it really just your time zone agnostic until you go to spit it out in a different time zone?
Right. Yeah, I imagine
I
that would be
believe
the situation.
MySQL just changed their default formatting for dates internally, or was that Laravel? It's hard to keep up.
Oh, we did find out, or what I learned this week. John might have already known this. Derek, the person behind Xdebug, he also wrote the date time for PHP.
No kidding.
No, yeah. I was floored. I'm like, really? He wrote date time, huh? I don't know why it surprises me. Somebody wrote it. No reason it wouldn't have been him. I mean, he's a super smart individual. So, it's just kind of cool. Like, oh, cool. I met the guy who wrote the date time function for PHP.
And if we ever get back to being able to go to conferences, all of our listeners can meet him too, because he's often at the PHP conferences around the country, around the world, actually.
He's a big conference goer. Yeah, he goes to a lot of them.
So Eric, you didn't get to talk about your week.
My week's my week. I did pretty much the same old thing every week. Why do you laugh?
I don't know. It's set up a perfect segue and just steamrolled over it.
What was I supposed to segue to? I'm very confused. I don't know.
Do you guys have a PHP 8 plan?
Plan to install it. Plan to run it, see what happens.
Well, we know that the new timeframes for long-term support and security fixes, once 8 comes out, you've got, I think, a year and a half until you're on it. So I feel like planning for going to 8 is going to have to be part of your development cycle now.
Well, I think that's the life of that's the modern day life of a PHP developer. You're always, I mean, even a Laravel developer more so, but you're always looking at the next version because it's now on such a regular basis. You know what's coming, so you're just tracking it. But we had this conversation. Fortunately, the changes between versions now have gotten much smaller, so it's not as painful of a, if you made the jump from 5.6 to 7, your life has been pretty good, and it should remain pretty good moving forward. That's the plan, and that'll be coming in.
Especially if you pay attention to deprecation notices.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest improvements PHP has made is deprecating before removing.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I know they just released. I know alpha became available for testing. I think today. Was it today or yesterday? I saw that.
Just went today.
Yeah, I saw that come in internals. I've been trying. So I think I shared with you guys last week, and I really went off on a tangent when I was recording PHP podcast, which I ended up cutting the whole thing out. But I had interviewed the PHP internal people who are releasing PHP 8, and yeah, it was. I mean, it was enlightening. So ever since then, I'm really trying to. I really want to get involved with internals. So I've been reading the mailing list again. Like previously, I had kind of stopped reading the mailing list and started going to that externals.io, which is still a fantastic way to read internals because everything gets threaded nicely and formatted nicely. But I started trying to keep on top of the emails as they come in now. I've bubbled it back up to notify me or to show when I have internals emails to read. So I'm trying to get more involved. I'm trying to kind of figure out like what can I do. Like I think this weekend I'm going to try to compile PHP 8 and try to see what that whole process looks like. But I'm going to get involved. I don't know how, but hey, I've been breaking shit on the PHP level for years. I'm going to do it in core. I'm breaking shit in core. It's coming. It's coming hard. But they were very inspiring. So I'm going to try.
We also talked about on PHP podcast, but you asked if we had a preparedness plan for 8. The fact that a lot of us are using Docker for development makes upgrading at least local very easy. So that locally, as I'm developing, I'm testing 8 while continuing to write 7.4 code for some period of time. Then from there, once all the developers are like, yeah, we've been running this for weeks, months, whatever it is, we have a comfort level that nothing's going to break, even though we don't hit every section of code. You can then get it onto development or staging servers, do a little more testing there, and then finally roll it out to production.
We actually just walked a client through a very similar workflow where we've been trying for years to get them off 5.6, and it was just too challenging. I mean, the environment was too big. Excuse me. So we started converting their environment to Docker containers, and then because of that, just what John said, we were able to update or upgrade the PHP to different versions to see where things started breaking. And we went through a whole series of testing. We actually deployed to production, and of course, once you deploy to production, those very edge cases start to become evident. So we had to roll it back, but again, Docker containers made that super simple to do, and we made a few more updates, and we pushed to production again, and been there for about a week, I want to say, maybe a little longer than a week, and I tell you, Docker has been such a lifeline. It's fantastic. I can't. One of the things I've been considering doing, since we're talking about this, is I'm I like Valet. I really, really enjoy Valet. But I do run into certain issues using it. I'm seriously considering uninstalling all my services on my local machine and just going straight Docker. I mean, I'm just getting so Docker is getting so prevalent in our environments, and it's getting so many more people have gotten their head around Docker that everybody's using it, and it's easier to understand how to configure it, or just from the experience, I'm understanding how to configure it more. I'm thinking about removing my web servers, my PHP, everything from my local system, and just going straight Docker.
See,
Yeah, I
I
wouldn't
haven't
be
had
against that.
I haven't had a web server on my machine in a long time. It actually got to a point where I had Nginx running. Every time I restarted the laptop, I got frustrated because I'd go to start up my Docker containers and it just wouldn't work. I'm like, what's going on? And then, oh yeah, I gotta stop
Shut down.
Nginx.
That's where I'm at right now. It's like when I want to run Docker, I'm like, oh crap, I gotta go shut down all these other services because I want to shut down MySQL. I want to shut down my web server because I don't want to have to change the ports and stuff, and I just like it forwarding on the right ports. So
Yeah, but even still, once you go to the right site on the right port, your browser keeps it for you, right? It's not like you have to remember, oh, for this one I'm on port 8080, this one I'm at 8081. Once it's in there, it autofills, you should be good to go.
Yeah, I think this is one of those situations where like things are incrementally improving, where we had Vagrant and then Valet, and then we've got the Docker stuff, and you can go in your IDE and run npm run serve, and it'll host your Laravel stuff on just a randomly assigned port. But I feel like there isn't a system-wide thing to just manage development of websites, where it's like it just manages the whole thing for you. You don't have to worry about it.
Devil box, man. I'm telling you,
Well,
you gotta look at that Devil box. The Devil box is
but
Docker containers, and it acts very much like Valet, where you say, okay, here's a directory that has all my websites, and it starts to configure it for you. I'm sorry, John, I cut you off twice
but
there.
no worries. I don't know enough about Devilbox to talk about it, but the the issue we had recently was somebody running the wrong version of PHP. Where if you can match the version of PHP that you have in production with what you're running locally, it's going to save you a hell of a lot of headaches. So a Docker container per project just makes more sense to me instead of trying to have some solution that fits everything. You might as well configure it per service.
It's funny. I reached out to Joe Ferguson today. He's a big guy in the PHP world, but I reached out to him specifically because I had to install Homestead for a project I'm working on for a client, and I was having an issue. It wasn't working for me. I'm like, God, I know it's been a long time since I've run Vagrant, but I don't remember having these problems. So I actually reached out to him, and it reminded me, and I say that because it reminded me that in Vagrant, you can, or in Homestead, I don't know if this is just a Vagrant thing, but in Homestead, Joe has configured it because he's the maintainer of Homestead for Laravel, that you can actually assign different versions of PHP to different sites that are hosted on the Vagrant box. And I'm like, wow, I wonder if you can do that in Docker. Like, again, with Devilbox, you can change the version of PHP, but again, I'm pretty sure it's a sweeping change. Like, you can't do this version of PHP for this site, this version of PHP for that site. I'm like, that's pretty cool. But that kind of speaks more to your point, John, where if you do a Docker install per project, which is what we do at DiegoDev, it allows you to customize it. Which, ironically enough, that was the project that had the wrong version of PHP.
Now, Homestead.
Well, that's just
Homestead
miscommunication.
Yeah.
Homestead has shortcuts for switching PHP versions as well. If you type PHP 56, then it'll switch the whole Homestead environment to PHP 5.6.
Well, Brew does that too. You can link and unlink different versions of PHP, but again, to John's point, that's system wide changes though. It's not per project.
Speaking of sweeping system-wide Apple changes, how concerned are you guys about OS 11?
Were we speaking about? I'm not so much concerned about OS 11. I'm definitely going to give it some time to come out. What I'm concerned
You
about,
can't run it.
I can run it. Yeah. What
It's
I
ARM.
no, no, it's not. It's going to run on both. What I'm concerned about is the switch to ARM, because I mean a couple things. First thing,
Why would you be concerned? Why would you be concerned about that?
well, a couple reasons. I mean, we went through this before when they went from whatever that chip was, the PowerPC to Intel, where they did the exact same thing they're doing now. They had this Rosetta translation layer to kind of carry people over, but eventually the PowerPC stuff lost support, and that's what's going to happen now with the Intel stuff, right? It's the clock is ticking on the Intel hardware, and it's probably going to be 2-3 years, maybe 4 years, ideally 5 years. But my Macs have been lasting me 5-6 years. I mean, I physically have to break or lose a Mac before I feel like I need to upgrade it. And
Or just leave it, or
you're just not gonna let me live that one down, are you? Good people in Houston returned it. I'm just saying, they're good people.
So, according to Apple, the x86 support on OS 11 will be emulated.
Right, that's the thing, and this is the process, right? This is what they do. So it's the clock is ticking, and we just spoke to Eric Mann last week, and Eric Mann he does Security Corner for PHP Arch, and he's a big security guy. He's on it, but he's full in System 76, right up the street from you, Thomas. The System 76 guys. I think they're right there in Denver. Yeah. And I tell you, I mean, listening to him, I'm thinking, I've been playing around with that idea for a while. So here's my issue. So this is why I'm thinking that. It's not only Apple's changing chips. Apple is manufacturing the chips. And that's a huge overhead. So it's not going to reduce the cost of the Apple. If anything, they're probably going to increase the cost, because it's not easy creating these chips, maintaining these chips, virtualization. I mean, so much stuff that they have to take in consideration. And I don't trust Apple to do a good enough job. B, they already locked down the hardware that they put in there. They limit the hardware they get from Intel and stuff. I don't even want to think about what they're going to do to their own stuff. I don't know. Everybody's like, oh, there's going to be better performance. I'm not that upset with my performance anymore. It's like that better performance carrot that they're dangling out there.
You should be.
It doesn't impact me. I just don't feel it. And I don't know, man. I think I'm concerned they're going to do a bad job at it. I'm concerned that 5-10 years into it, they're going to give up on it and say, this is costing us too much money. We're going back to Intel, or we're going back to another system, and put everybody through that again. Can you imagine? I have a theory, a conspiracy theory. The people who bought the Power PCs, the latest Power PCs, like those very expensive cheese graters, the Power Macs, could you imagine if you were one of those people? I mean, I think...
And my hair is not long enough anymore to have a man bun like that, no.
I think that's probably the only reason they're willing to support this chip, as long as they're willing to support it, because they don't want to alienate those people. But I don't know if I'm ready to take that ride with them anymore. I mean, I enjoy my Mac, I like my Mac, but it's not bringing a lot to the table that I can't get from a Linux machine anymore. And
after talking to Eric Mann, I'm with you on being ready to try System 76,
I mean, we just talked
trying a
about it.
Linux machine again.
Docker,
Yeah.
PHP Storm runs on Linux without issue. It's JavaScript. I mean,
I used to be a huge Linux geek back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And once I switched to Mac, I never looked back. So I haven't tried any of the latest Linux desktops.
It's like OS X, man. It's so easy.
well, and to talk to Eric Mann, he actually does. He just sticks with the whole Pop OS from System 76. He says it's fantastic. So
Yeah, and I was just reading about Pop OS, which is based off of
Ubuntu.
It's based off of the newest version of Ubuntu, and it supports like 75% of the Steam library. Like, so it can fully game
it's
now.
Not only game. Maybe. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was Steam. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's and I think it's more than 75% actually. Excuse me. I think if I remember correctly, Steam had done some stuff to make a bunch of Microsoft games run on it.
Yeah, so there was a bunch of stuff that got games working, but what Pop OS did was basically say like, hey, let's just run all that stuff for you so you don't have to worry about it. So now it runs just like a Windows box.
So I don't know. I mean, for how I use systems, and I'm with John. When I had switched over to the Mac, I'd done a bunch of stuff with Linux, and all of our servers are obviously Linux, right? I mean, I'm sure there are other options out there, but I'm perfectly comfortable in it. And that's why I had actually switched to the Mac, because it had that BSD underbelly. I was very comfortable at the command line. I still spend a lot of my time on the command line. Between the command line and the browser, that's probably like, a good 85-90% of my workload. I really feel like I could live on a Linux desktop, because I don't know.
I do.
I thought you'd switch back to Windows.
That machine just has, it's just running games and YouTube and Chrome for research stuff on my third monitor. It's not doing any coding or any heavy lifting right now. So my primary work environment is still a version of Ubuntu. I don't know what version I'm at right now.
Yeah, I'm considering it. We're going to have to make a decision at some point, but...
Now, before you do, I'll let you know that my Wi-Fi card is definitely protesting this. It disconnects every 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and reconnects immediately.
That's horrible.
Which just means that it's constantly throwing an error up on the screen that says disconnection.
Why you need the System 76. That's Linux built through and through.
There's some fix for it. I haven't bothered looking, but it's just an annoyance. It's not like Windows is better. My sons keep saying Windows is not activated. Windows is not activated. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, buddy.
I'll give you another secret. I haven't even shared this with John. I'm getting more and more comfortable with my keyboard. I'm really starting to, and I'm getting quicker and quicker with my typing. I'm nowhere near what I was before, but I've been pushing through my bad habits with it, and try.
Not even using it?
Completely disconnected it.
Oh my god.
We will circle back around to you in a minute, mister. But the more I'm using it and the more comfortable I'm getting, the harder time I'm having reaching for my mouse. And I've been using Vim as my editor more and more. So I still go back to Storm, and Storm is probably, again, 90% of the editing I do in PHP. But even with Storm, I find myself reaching for the mouse a lot. And so what I've been doing a lot of is I'll edit in Vim for like a couple hours, and I try to figure out what actions in Vim I'm doing that cause me to reach for a mouse in Storm, and then I go back over to Storm. I'm like, okay, can I remap this? Can I make this more like Vim? So that's kind of where I'm at. But as I'm doing that, I'm like finding, I'm like, oh yeah, man, Vim is, I miss like just real, it's in Vim now. I've moved on from regular Vim. I'm on in Vim. But I'm like, yeah, no, I missed this, man. This feels like everything I need to do is right here. I don't even need to go
See,
back to Storm.
what I need for PHP Storm is a plugin that tells me when I did something in an inefficient way.
It does
It
that.
just says, "Hey, no, like keystroke wise. If I type out a whole line and it says, "Oh, hey, you could have just hit Control V X F7 and it would have auto-filled that whole thing for you."
Well, interesting. Uh, yeah, I mean, and even, you know, yeah, man, I do love my Vim. All right, John, we need to circle back around to you. What happened?
I just couldn't get anything done. I had to work. I had to get stuff done. I got to a point where, I was enjoying my little typing tests I was doing, and I could get through that a little bit. But at the end of the day, the key combinations, the placement of keys just was frustrating me, and I set it aside for a little bit. Let me get work done. I'll circle back to it eventually.
How long has this been
But
going on? Tell me. Tell me how long this
uh,
has been going on, John. I need to know.
trying to think, probably a week now.
You whore.
I mean, at least it's not a diaper changing table.
Yeah.
Well, the keys are they're not in the right spot. What can I tell you?
So my latest change, because the bad habit I have was finding my home row. So the latest change I did was I changed my two index finger buttons to blue. So I just have to glance down and I know that's where my index goes, and then my rest of my hand just goes there because I'm still struggling with like hovering my hands and typing like this. So I've been forcing myself to put my hand back down on the keys, relax, feel comfortable, and like I said, I had remapped my delete key to my Apple key, but as I start to do that, I'm starting to get more and more comfortable with these Apple keys up here and just using my thumb to touch the Apple key. So I still have this remap, but I'm trying not to use it. And it's just that, I mean, and that's just how it's been. It's like I just there's like one thing that I try to change every week. I'm like, okay, this week I'm going to hit P with my pinky. Like I'm not going to take my ring finger and go over. I'm going to hit P with my pinky, and I just work on that, for the whole week. And yeah, I don't know. I could easily go back to the other keyboard if I needed to, but my speed is improving, and I just feel so comfortable in this keyboard. I really like it.
I wanted to like it. I kept trying. It even the autocomplete within Storm just didn't feel the same. Like I just
That is
couldn't
weird.
just couldn't get there.
What do you mean?
I I can't even describe it. Like just typing out a variable and then trying to do the arrow
Okay,
and then continue on. It just wasn't the things just aren't in the right spot and it was driving me nuts.
so this is something that I realized when I went back to Vim and came back to Storm. I remembered how you did Vim and autocomplete. You did Control N or Control P to scroll through. That works with the Vim plugin in PHP Storm. So again, that was one of those things. Same thing. My fingers were tripping over themselves trying to do the autocomplete, and it works for files. It works for anything where you have to scroll down. The Control N, Control P works just like in Vim. I'm just saying, just so you know. So yeah,
Oh, instead of using the arrow keys, you mean?
yeah. Instead of using
Moving
the
up
arrow
and
key,
down.
because I had this friend of mine who was a Vim guy, and he said, "Don't ever touch your arrow keys. Take your arrow keys off your keyboard." I'm like, "You're insane, John." And but now he's right. I mean, you were right that whole time. Like even when I used to use Vim, I used to use my arrow keys to scroll up and down those things because that's the way I knew how to do it. It made sense. In so many other programs, that's how you did it. So I was like, well, I'm just going to do it because that's where I do it, everywhere else. Now, Control N, Control P works in PHP Storm, works in Vim. I'm a
And
happy
and
person.
that's and that's what led to my bad habits with typing was the movement in Vim, my fingers were off the home row by one key. So I'm used to my middle finger being up,
H.
my ring finger being down.
Yeah.
You know, my index finger was always on H to go left.
Mhm.
So I was always off by a whole key. So when I switched to that keyboard, just the typing just wasn't right.
I know I'm a way worse typer than you are, and if I'm breaking my habits, you can break yours. But whatever, you got to get work done.
Now,
whatever makes you comfortable.
let me put my recommendation in. Typing of the Dead is a recreation of the original arcade shooter House of the Dead. But instead of having a laser gun and shooting the zombies, you have to type the words that they say. And it does have an obscene words mode, which is very obscene.
What's this called? Typing of the Dead?
Typing of the Dead.
I am gonna have to look
And
that one up here.
it is addictive enough that it will help you learn your keyboard.
Typing of the Dead. There it is. All right.
Well, make sure they go. I'll put it in the show notes for you because why not?
Oh, it's. Well, wait a minute. This is a Steam-powered thing. You're saying there's a. What am I missing here, Tom?
It's a game.
Yeah, but it's on Steam.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I think you can get it on good old games too.
But you use your keyboard. Okay, this.
Right, it pops up words on the screen, and to shoot the zombies, you have to type the word for that zombie.
This is pissing me off. Hold on. Sorry. Thank you, Patreons. I just switched over to Patreon there for a second. I'm switching over to the browser.
Now, it's worth noting, the Overkill edition is only explicit, and you cannot turn it off. So, if you've got kids in the house, then you just can't play this game.
Okay. Here's one of my gripes about getting older. This is what you have to do now. Scroll. Well, that's a little bit too much scroll. That actually wasn't a bad scroll. I have to scroll.
I can't see you're scrolling.
Oh. Hey, yeah, why can't you see my scrolling? I'm sharing the screen. Oh, that's weird. If I click on something, does that screen update? Yeah, that updates. Oh, that's weird. The form wasn't rendering for some reason. Weird, man. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways.
You realize you don't really have to go to your real age, right?
No.
Yeah,
I mean that could take a long time.
They don't. Yeah, that's the problem, Dick.
I never bother with my real age. I just put in like 200 years old.
How old could that be here? Let's see. What's the furthest it goes back? Oh, god damn it. Well, it goes back to 1900. So yeah, okay. Maybe.
All right, before we move off of talking about typing, Jesse asks, how do you feel when you switch over to the laptop? Have you tried?
I haven't. That's a great question, Jesse. I haven't had to. I took my iPad out, which my iPad has the keyboard on it. I did take this out recently, but that's completely different. I haven't had to switch over to a laptop in a while, even though it sits right here. So.
Did you do much typing when you used the iPad?
Not really.
Like, did you actually have to do anything?
Yeah, I was just doing Slack, and so I don't think it's going to be that difficult. I should do that one day just to see, or at least switch back to the old keyboard and see, because the first week I had it, and I had switched over, and I tried to switch back to the old keyboard. I'd use it for like a solid week, and it was a nightmare. Like, I couldn't get anything done on either keyboard. I was frustrated, but I think now that I've settled in a little bit, it would be easier. That would be my only reservation about changing out a keyboard. That is my reservation for not trying Dvorak. I really want to try Dvorak. We talked about this.
I see no reason to.
Because why not? Because it makes the key layout makes sense. Look at the key layout and why they put the keys where they put the keys. It makes a ton of sense.
Right, but if you're a fastball pitcher, and someone says, "Well, curveball pitching is actually better," you'd still be like, well, I'm an expert fastball pitcher.
You should know better.
Training to be a curveball pitcher is a pointless endeavor for me.
You should know better than try to use a baseball analogy on me, because what you would do is you'd go to a fastball pitcher and you say, hey, if you learn to throw a knuckleball, you'll extend your career by 5 years. Then that fastball pitcher learns to throw a knuckleball. So it's not fastball, curveball. That's just crazy talk, Thomas. You don't even know what you're talking about. It would be a fastball pitcher and a knuckleball. Okay, that's what they would do.
Well, a true knuckleball isn't even allowed in the MLB anymore.
What are you talking about? Don't get me started on that. I'm already pissed off about the new rules in Major League Baseball. I'm really mad about them. So don't get me started on that. I have another one of the other developers here is another baseball fan. We had a whole bitch session about all the new baseball rules this morning, and it didn't go well.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And were we paying for that time? I'm confused here. What happened?
What?
Anyway,
What were you saying?
He had a pitch
I
coder.
didn't hear you, John.
do
Your mic's going out
you
again.
do you remember our friend Matthew Garofini? I thought he left Zend when Zen Framework was
Not everyone
being
left Zend.
switched
Yeah, me too.
to Laminos.
Vámonos.
Well, I got an email this morning from Mr. O'Finney with bookmark this site, and it's PHP Security Center over at zen.com, and it's very interesting. So the link will be in the show notes, but it's zen.com/php-security-center, and it's basically a nice central location to find out all the CVE errors or issues with PHP currently.
I'm sorry. I need to ban Gishu. Hold on 1 second. I'm just finding how to ban him because he said go Red Sox. Sorry about that.
Nathan, yeah.
Priorities. I got it.
Go ahead, John.
So no, it's an interesting site. Lots of great information, helping you make sure you're staying on top of your PHP versions.
This is awesome.
If you are
actually.
if you're running an older version, you can see if there's any security issues that you need to be aware of.
Oh, yeah, it goes all the way back to 5.6 stuff, huh? Nice.
Yeah, you may not want to do that. I'm just saying.
No, this is fantastic, John. This was a great find. This is
I like the first one that shows up there. Remote code execution. Perfect.
PHP directory iterator class accepts file names with embedded null bytes and treats them as terminating at that byte. Ooh.
Yeah.
And what's great is it links to the CVE, which is awesome. This is nice.
It tells you what you need to do to fix it, which normally means upgrading, but
Yeah, let's see.
But it's an incorrectly written React site, so the pagination doesn't allow for back and forth clicking.
Oh, there's a critical out there for 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3. Oh, it's that remote code exploit one you were talking about. This is awesome. Thanks, John. Yeah, that'll be in the show notes. Oh, show.
All right, is that it?
Jesus, Tom, are you okay? Yeah, sure, that'll be it.
I'm out of
He
beer.
wants to play Rocket League.
Is that y'all's new thing? Do you guys hang out and play Rocket League for a
It's
while?
our newest tradition. We do a couple rounds.
I wouldn't know because I'm never invited, so whatever.
I get carried pretty hard.
Yeah, that could be it. I mean, episode 196. I'm good wrapping up. It was a bumpy start, but I'm good for wrapping this one up. Where are we at in time? It's been an hour with John? Well, I guess it doesn't need to be an hour.
Hour
with
and
John.
20. Yeah, it's. I do have
My
stuff for
recording's
next
at
week.
an hour and 5.
We're going to talk about pay rates next week. So
We need to talk about recording times next week, but we'll take that
Oh,
offline.
Oh, you don't want to announce it on the show so people can be prepared for next week?
No, because
we will be
we will
recording
discuss.
Wednesday.
Okay, you guys have a good time. I'll
We-
tell you. we really
Did you not get Eric's little hesitation? Like, we'll talk about it off air.
Yeah.
Don't
Oh,
announce it yet.
100% picked up on that. Yeah.
I'm fine with people hanging out and listening to us talk about, but I just figured this is a good spot for the end of the audio podcast because
Let's go to our Patreons.
thank you, Patreons, for all that you do. Where's the Patreon slide? Damn it,
You
Thomas.
clicked on it earlier.
There you go. Thank you, Patreons. We appreciate you. I keep saying every week I will get swag out to the people that need swag. I went to storage this week. It was just overwhelming. We had to close the whole office out and store. I ended up taking way more to storage than I thought I was going to end up taking. So all the Patreon stuff got buried. So I gotta go digging through it all again. But I do have lanyards in there somewhere. I will find them. I will get them to you. I'm sure we got some stickers left over. I will get those to you guys as well. Do appreciate you. Even if I saw a couple people drop off, including, well, I'm not going to call names, but if you dropped off and you were on Patreon long enough to receive your reward, I will make sure you get it as well because I'm a nice enough guy. So yeah, I think that's it. That's it. That's going to be episode 196 in the can. I'm Eric.
I'm John.
I'm Tom.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
What was that? I'm Tom.
I don't know.
All right, we'll just keep this
It's
running.
not what I sound like.
I'm stopping local.
I'm stopping local and getting a beer.
I'm stopping
Eric,
local.
I have some news that will stun you.
Stun me, buddy.
Hold on, I'm getting my beer first.
You know, I'm Gishu. Hey, John, did you see my new 8-bit characters in chat?
No.
Are you still not able to see OBS?
I can see OBS now.
Yeah.
I don't know what changed, but yeah, I can see it.
On the right hand side, you see Gishu. So the chat, the chat is actually sticking around. I think I'm just gonna have chat be unlimited and just let chat stay here. But I extended the amount of time chat stays here, which was really nice. So I think I'm just gonna let chat always stay up, but we'll see. What?
So Eric.
Well, but what about the 8-bit characters? What are you talking about?
I just changed the font to 8-bit characters. I just thought it was cool, geeky. All right, Thomas. Before you go, whatever you're going to say, I want to let you know you impacted somebody. You reached out and touched somebody, and they're filing charges. No.
I apologize.
Syntax Seed, Sherry Willer. She is switching from Brave to Firefox because of our show. Or
really?
Yeah. I mean, I think we contributed to it. She mentioned that she was listening to the show. She's like, well, I guess I'm switching to Firefox now. And then I saw on Twitter she was actually switching to Firefox. And I'm like, oh.
My Twitter moves too fast for me to follow.
I
hate it.
All right, dazzle me, Thomas.
Tomorrow, I am going to a local store and buying my serialized AR-15 lower.
What is the serialized AR-15 lower?
I have no clue what you're talking about.
I'm building an AR-15.
Oh, okay. What's an AR-15?
The gun.
Oh, really? You're building a gun?
I'm building a gun.
That's interesting.
Yeah. From scratch. Well, parts.
Why?
And why did you think that would dazzle me? I'm not
because you've long known my stance on guns.
Ah, that's true. I do enjoy guns. I do enjoy shooting guns. It's a very
focused
thing.
I enjoy guns too, but I've never felt the need to have one.
Mm-hmm.
But Colorado is different, man. It's weird.
So you feel you need to arm yourself?
some of my further right-leaning associates are getting really antsy about the coming Civil War.
Oh, I really hope that's not the reason you're getting a gun, Thomas.
It's not, but it's one of the reasons that's come up that I've started.
I need to fix this.
I've started changing my opinion.
I need to fix this one scene. Why I have
my kids?
Go ahead.
My kids aren't little kids anymore. I'm gonna have an office that I can lock and keep all my stuff in, and my attitude generally has slowly shifted. It's
that means you're getting older. That's scary.
yeah. And my wife did not understand until I sort of ran down all of the stuff going on around here lately and
you almost
our
got in a
friends.
fight last week.
Well, yeah, but I didn't have the gun in that one. My friend had the gun.
Oh my God! The fact that anybody had a gun is unnerving.
Well, no, he kicked the guy out of his house, and then just made sure he had his gun on him in case the guy decided to come back.
I should get some space there. Yeah.
Well, see, so my best friend here.
So for the record, before you go much further, for the record, I don't feel like that's the right reason to be wanting to get a gun.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not the only reason, but the nature of politics right now, where people are discouraging liberal voters from owning guns. It's starting to get weird around here, where people are like, "Don't buy a gun. You're for Obama," and I'm like, "That's got nothing to do with it." Like, I feel like I need to express my Second Amendment right as a liberal voter in order to have hair in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have the objections that I used to have because I don't have 8-year-olds running around my house, and I have a space where I can store things safely and care for things safely. But and I'm very, very familiar with guns. I grew up with guns. I've shot every caliber you can think of, and so it's not like I've never handled guns, huh?
904?
I've never heard of that.
Me either, but I thought of it. He didn't say it had to be real.
So it's an interesting track to go down. The lower that I was looking at is like $65 in the store, and that just gets me started. And I can buy, $20 parts or $100 parts every couple weeks until I've got the whole thing built.
Mm-hmm.
And my buddy, this came about from a lot of conversations from my friend here, who was a photographer for a newspaper or for a TV studio in Texas. So he would go out to crime scenes before the police got there, and he had to have a gun. He had to have a concealed carry on him because he didn't know what was going to be there when he got there. So we've talked a lot about that kind of stuff, and it's very interesting. But the gun culture here in Colorado is extremely different from California, as you can probably
California
imagine.
is one of the most restrictive states for gun ownership. Yeah, I totally understand. Ryan, I think I agree with what you're saying, but yeah, I'm definitely a fan of owning guns. I don't own a real gun. I have old Saturday Night Special that my father had when he died. My mom didn't want it in the house, so I took it. But I enjoy shooting guns. It's a very focused and concentrated thing. I've considered buying a gun, but yeah, the whole idea of buying a gun with the thought of this is for defense, buying a gun, wanting to learn a gun and understand how a gun works and get good at it is one thing, and then having it for self-defense is completely different, as opposed to saying, well, I need self-defense, I need to go get a gun. That freaks me out a little bit.
An interesting thing occurred to me is my opinion of self-defense was always, what if someone breaks into your house, et cetera, et cetera. I've never condoned a gun for that purpose, because if they're breaking into your house, they've got the drop on you. A gun is only going to complicate a situation. It's not going to improve a situation.
Well, and see, now with that thought process, if you think about it, if you're a person like I am, the person's always going to have the drop on me before I pull a gun. I'm never going to pull out a gun unless, it's like an absolute last resort. So, but I am interested. You said you're building a gun. Was there a reason you're building it? Or did I misunderstand?
Because my hobby is learning things from the inside out from the start.
Okay.
Programming,
That makes sense.
3D printing. I didn't get a 3D printer that did all the work for me. I got a 3D printer that did none of the work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And this
how
is going to
that,
be
by
the
the
same
way?
thing. I gave it to my friend
Good.
because he has stuff he wants to print and I don't. But that's always been my way of doing things, is learn everything you can about it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's a lot cheaper to build one than to buy one. I can do it in piecemeal, and I can learn the whole operation of the system as I build it, which it takes about 30 minutes of a YouTube video to understand the complete operation of an AR-15. It's an extraordinarily simple gun.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so I have a new TV, and I've got these two broken 65-inch TVs in my house, and I just needed to get rid of them. And I knew that people picked them up off Craigslist and fixed them and resold them, so I just listed it on Craigslist for free. And once I had a guy on his way to come pick them up, I started feeling like, boy, I wish my wife had a gun next to her, so this guy who's coming in our house to take these giant
better.
TVs.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was starting to think, like, I am at this point inviting a random person into my house to take expensive stuff away.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked why you were building it is I had an associate here who, him and his daughter, went to some class to learn how to build the gun, and there was something about the rules and regulations about, and this is specific to California, and I don't remember the specifics. Had I had some time to prep, I might have been able to look it up. But there was something about the rules and regulations about building your own gun and purchasing a gun. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah, so that's an 80% thing. So there's a thing called an 80% lower, where it's 80% machined, and then you buy it, and it doesn't need a serial number because it's not a complete lower receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And so you take a hacksaw and cut off the last two pieces of metal, and now it's a working gun with no serial number. Now,
Well, I think it also had something to do with, and don't quote me on this because I don't know for sure, but I think it also had something to do with whether or not they even had to get a license for it. Like, if you built it yourself.
So that's the thing, is that if you cut the 80% yourself, or if you machine your own lower, you don't need to get a serial number or a license for it. It's your gun. You can't sell it. You can't give it away. And if you want to sell it or give it away, you have to send it to the NRA or to the ATF to get a serial number for it. And then you've got a licensed gun. But if you manufacture your own gun, then it belongs just to you, and it cannot be transferred in any way whatsoever.
Interesting.
So there's a whole thing. You can buy a mill that's designed just to mill out AR-15 lowers, but anything you make on it, you can only use yourself. No one else can ever touch it.
Interesting. Yeah. So, yeah. I hope we didn't lose John, because I do want to talk about schedules here. Because.
Nope, I'm here.
Cool. Unfortunately, Wednesday's not going to work for me.
Okay.
Do you want to do Saturday or Sunday?
No.
Yeah, that's a hard.
No?
That's a hard no for you, John.
Yep. Tuesday?
I'm completely unavailable Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I potentially a Saturday or Sunday would work for me, but right now Thursday is it's just her work schedule. I mean, for her to move, it would inconvenience too many other people. So it's kind of like Thursday or during the day. If you can figure out a time during the day, Thomas, I would be willing. We could probably shuffle this around during the day at some point. I know you have limitations with kids and all that other stuff.
If Thursday just the whole day off the board, we could start earlier.
Well, I think it would have to be during the day for John because, or John, I'll let you speak.
Yeah. I leave. I have a standing date now. We have grandma coming over to watch the kids, and I leave at 5 to go on a date with my wife. So I may be back like tonight. I may not be. So if you guys want to stay Thursday night, I just may or may not be here.
What about it? What about we push it back? I mean, we go back to our original time at 10. Just plan on that, and then it's the same deal applies. Maybe you'll make it, maybe you won't, but at least it'll give you another hour.
I mean, if he's got a standing date with babysitter on Thursday, I don't ever want it to be like a podcast or wife situation.
No, it won't be. I mean, it's always wife. That's what he's saying. He may
Right.
make it back or not. What I'm saying is, if we move, we had moved it up to 9 because we didn't want to stay up so late. But if we push it back to 10, because we recorded it at 10 for a couple of years, we push it back to 10. That gives him another hour. I mean, that's 5 hours. I don't want to be around John for 5 hours. I'm sure his wife doesn't either. So, I think that would be. You want to do that? You want to push it? You want to push it back to 10?
That's up to you guys, because I feel bad. I don't want you changing just for me. I would love to be part of it, but I also don't want you guys changing to 10 and then me not making it.
Well, we could have an open block from 9 to 10, and if we get to 10 o'clock and you're not available, then we can just start recording.
It's up to you guys, however you want to do it.
I don't understand how that's different than just saying we're recording at 10.
If I'm home at 9:15 and we start, is what he's saying.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh.
So like I can, if you just text me, if you hit me up on Slack and say, hey, John's done at 9:15, so we're doing it then, and then just go as late as 10 o'clock.
Let's be clear. I'm not John's secretary. John can message us on Slack and say, hey, can we go at 9:30, and then we'll do it that way. How's that?
Well, okay. I'm already accommodating your guys' weird time zone because it's 11:45 here.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. No, that makes perfect sense. I'm cool. Let's try that for. I mean, honestly, we've got 3 more shows to 200. After that, we can go in hiatus for a little while. It's up to you guys, but I really want to get to
because 200 is some magic number.
It's 200. It's a nice even 200 shows, man. I want to get there. I want the 3 of us to get there, and then I can fire you 2 and bring on some real talent.
All right. On that note, I'm hanging up.
All right. That's the plan then.
Alrighty.
That's the plan. So, John, you just let us know on Thursday. Again, we'll just be prepared from 9 to 10, and we don't hear from you by 10. We'll just go ourselves. So.
Yeah, and it depends too on how well
this 2 o'clock where he's at.
It depends on how well the Zencaster thing worked out too.
Oh yeah, I need to see what that. Oh yeah, that's a good point, Thomas.
Because you could just jump in at 10:10 or 10:15 or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how this works out. Yeah, that could be a game changer here. Because we didn't restart the show. I just thought of that. We didn't restart the show, so if this doesn't work, that's going to be a very odd beginning of the show. All right, that's it. I'm stopping the stream. Thanks, everybody. Gishu, Ryan, who else was in here? There was somebody else in here, I remember. Brian, yes. Thank you guys for hanging
Jesse.
out. Jesse was in here. Jesse was in here? Oh, Jesse. Yeah. Hey, brother. Yes.
Jesse's on YouTube.
Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. See you at some point next week. Apparently, the time is going to be a little in flux. You guys are the first to know, so congratulations.